At the core of debriefing and facilitating in general is questioning. We've set a safe environment where it's okay to answer questions. We need to ask good questions. Now, first step is, of course, setting a safe environment. If your learners are not used to being questioned, they may think you're quizzing them. They may be used to what considered a bad question of a pimping approach. This is when somebody asks them a verbal quiz or asks them questions till they cry. Well, they may think when you're asking questions for that reason. We need to set an environment that this is safe, it's okay to work it through. We may not know. If we go back to the stages of competence, we may be trying to figure out where they're at or helping them through the stages, and it may be okay that their answer is wrong. We need to help them understand that we're asking why and what they're thinking because we're trying to understand, not because we're trying to quiz them or say they're good or bad. That's a judgment we shouldn't be making. When it comes to questioning, people know it's better to ask open questions rather than closed questions. The yes, no, not going to get you far. Sometimes we try to dress up closed questions, yes, no, and try to just turn them into facts. What is the presentation of this or those? That can quickly move into a what am I thinking question. One of my favorites of that is, what else could be wrong with this patient? Now, somebody who's a bit of a wise guy could answer, well, if I knew, I would have done that. What happens with the guess what I'm thinking questions is the students spend more time trying to figure out what you as an educator are trying to figure out or want them to figure out than what the actual issue is. We shouldn't be asking questions about what am I thinking. We should be asking what is the learner thinking. If you have to ask a what am I thinking question, say, hey, I thought the patient had this presentation. You thought they had this presentation. Why do you think we had different answers? So now we can start talking about what it was the presentation. Why did we figure out what we figured out? We also want to shy away from what is often called dirty questions. You didn't mean to do that, did you? Or, lovely, the hint and hope. You really should, or you're leading down the path. We want to be asking why questions. We want to be diving deep. There is a great tool that Rudolph and all worked on, Advocacy Inquiry. Great tool for it. Please read the article and dive in. The other way to do it would be the 5 whys. It comes from Six Sigma and Lean world of really diving into what's going on. We're really trying to get deeper because what happens is the first why will often just give us a surface answer. What we're trying to do is get to the structure of their mental model. We're trying to dive deeper and deeper into it. We shouldn't just take the face value. We really want to ask, what are you thinking? That being said, what were you thinking is a different question. We want to be very careful about that. It'd be great to ask what were you thinking as long as it's a safe environment. When you're asking questions, the intent should be one of curiosity. The learner should truly feel that you're curious about the answer. You have to give the learner that chance that they have some really good answer to what they do. Because sometimes they saw something different that you did, and they might be right. Sometimes they were thinking about something from the previous experience, whatever it is, and we want to ask the questions so we make sure we're teaching the right thing before we shift. When you're building skills in questioning, you're going to have trouble. Having a co-debriefer is great, or video review, and you want to be comfortable asking other questions. If you ask a question and bombs, that's okay. Don't answer it. Ask another one. Don't come to save the students. Let the other students save each other. Give the students the time to answer. Be comfortable with long pauses and silence. I'm not talking 3 to 5 seconds. I'm talking 15, 20, 30 seconds if needed. If there's nobody that's going to be able to answer that question, reword the question, try again. Don't answer your own questions. If you're tracking your debriefings, you should find that about 70% of the time the debriefer is talking, those are questions. That being said, in the overall time, about 70% of the debriefing, the students should be doing the talking. So the debriefer has a short amount of time and should be mostly questions, not statements. You'll know you're doing good questioning when you're getting to the structures of people's mental models. When they start explaining, I was thinking about this, or what about this, and diving in. Once you've got their mental model, then you can give a little riff or a little something, with the facts of the case, but not until then. You want to make sure to ask the questions. You want to make sure everybody has a chance to answer too. There's some debate on should you call individual people. You've got to feel that out by group. If you got somebody overwhelming the group or somebody who's not talking too much, you may have to. You need to find your balance. But your goal should be to ask questions. Once you've gotten used to this, once you start using it quite a bit, you'll find that your students and your staff get used to it and they'll anticipate your questions. It's great because then the learners go, well, you're going to ask me what was I thinking? Well, yeah, I am. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you as an educator are getting used to asking lots of good questions, but some of your peers or others are not, there still may be that shift. People may still try to figure out, are we being tested here or whatever it is? So you may have to reset the environment each time. What happens is if you start diving into this deeper, as you build your art of questioning, your own style, you'll find better ways to ask the questions. You'll find ways that fit you, ways that feel authentic to you. Try it, get feedback. Ask people questions about your questions. A great book, John Maxwell, about leaders ask great questions. Dive in. See how other people do it. What you'll find is that if a debriefing is going well, it's a series of really good questions. Now, if I can do a really good debriefing, I might only have to ask 3 or 4 for a 45-minute debriefing because I can set that fire and then guide as appropriate. It's about asking why. Now, one thing people do get is they say, well, I hate asking questions and students go to their phones. Well, if you ask a question that they can answer via their phone, they should. Because you asked the what question, you asked the fact question. The why questions are not in their phones. What were you thinking or why did you do something is not in their phones. Now keep in mind, sometimes people have trouble with why, so you may have to override other things. Well, I saw you did this. Help me understand what you're thinking. Or you may have to dive deeper into it. But why does work also. Find your pattern, find your way, realize it's an art because it's not a science. You're going to have to try it and you're going to have to deliberately practice in order to improve your question.